Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shiva Prabhu. So, yeah, I think most of the people are known and we talk quite often. And to be honest, this is an ad hoc invitation. And there are many Vaishnavas which I see already in this forum, including Shri Gaur Prabhu and Shubhalas Prabhu and all. Which are much more deeply realized than me when it comes to spirituality. But like I will just try to follow their orders and share some experiences and some understanding. So when I was told to talk about Harinam this morning, I was just thinking that how best we can use this, 15-20 minutes, uh, because in this session we see that many of the very senior Vaishnavas come, they share their realization, and then they give the very practical tips and the deep philosophical perspective of the holy name. And to an extent, we all understand what value it carries when it comes to chanting. This is the base of whatever we are doing in terms of advancing ourselves in the spiritual life. So something clicked in my mind, and I would just like to share that today. Uh, Within ISKCON, there is one sannyasi. His name is His Holiness uh, Sachidanand Goswami Maharaj. And Maharaj is known to take a lot of classes and a lot of sessions and seminars around various topics. So in one of his class, he explained very beautifully the effects of holy name. And I was just reading through and I thought that rather than I speak on my own or my, like immature realization, why don't I share what I hear from Sachidanand Maharaj? And Maharaj very beautifully explained one very important point, that Bhagavan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given only 8 shlokas or 8 instructions by the name of Shikshastakam. We all know that the Shikshastakam shlokas, they are the essence of the entire Vedic literature. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided just to give these 8 shlokas to all of us, 8 instructions to all of us. And out of these 8 instructions, he dedicated one full instruction just to glorify the holy name, which is a very first one, what we always sing in the morning also. We chant in the morning also in the temple morning program, which is this Cheto Darpan Marjanam, and which ends with Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining that how important, how he explains very beautifully the glories of the holy name. And actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining us uh, in a more deeper, with a more deeper meaning of the holy name. So we'll just try to understand uh, this particular shloka only for today's session, and try to understand that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to convey to us. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Cheto Darpan Marjanam. Uh, so what is the effect of holy name? That what happens when somebody chants? So first thing what happens is that Cheto Darpan Marjanam. Cheto means man. Darpan is just like a mirror. And Marjanam means cleaning. So when somebody chants holy name, his mind becomes cleaner. What does it mean? This means that on our mind, there is a dirt. What is that dirt? That dirt is the particles of our material desires, which is lying on our darpan, the mirror of our mind. And what these particles are doing, these particles are stopping us to see ourselves in our natural position, which is a servant to devotees and servant to Krishna. So when we chant, we get the empowerment to clean this dirt, and we can actually see that what is our real position and what is our real desires are. So in the presence of these particles, which is on our mirror, we are not able to see our real position, and chanting help us to clean this dirt. This is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is starting. Then he says, Bhava Mahadavagani Nirvapana. So Bhava Mahadavagani means, Bhava means emotions from a material context. So Bhava means have two.
अच्छा प्रभु वो नहीं करते हैं.
Yeah. So Bhava has two context. So Bhav can be taken from from two different perspectives. There are emotions and there is a devotion. So if any of our emotion, when we rightly direct towards Krishna, then that very emotion become a devotion. But when we are not able to direct our emotions towards Krishna, either it is directed towards some of the sense object or some of our attachments, and these emotions are ultimately take us away from Krishna. So the whole spiritual process is to gradually transform our emotions to a devotional state or devotion state. So Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapana. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, that when you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then because of these material emotions, sometimes you create a fire in your life. And this fire is just like a forest fire. You really don't know from where it got initiated, but it has a propensity to destroy your entire life, and you can completely get burned out in this fire. So you see that most of the people around us, if you look at very closely, most of the people are struggling with different sort of emotions. They're just trying to figure out uh, their anger, their affections, their different complexities, and every day they struggle with that emotional state of mind. And uh, uh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapana. So this Mahadavagni, on a very superficially, if you look at people, if you look at our own life also, sometimes we also find a glimpse of this Davagni. Yes, sometimes we get very seriously angry on something, or sometimes we very seriously react on some part. And then those who are the sincere chanters, uh, if we talk to them, you will understand that they will share this realization that uh, this very process of chanting helps them look at things a very different perspective, and their attachment, which was more towards the material things, uh, got shifted towards the spirituality, and they are able to progress uh, better in managing these emotional disturbances, and gradually becoming more and more attached to the spiritual side of life. And more we develop taste toward the holy name, then those material emotions and attachment, gradually we find that it is going away, and we are more and more attached to the services, to association of the devotees and devotees and so on and so forth. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very categorically specifying that chanting of holy name will remove this bhavadavagni. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further explains Shreya Kairava Chandrika. So Chandrika is moon. Shreya means the rays. So in the moonlight, there are very soothing rays coming out of moon. What does this moonlight rays does? When these moonlight rays uh, fall upon the lotus, uh, the lotus reacts positively. So similarly, when the holy name, when it goes to our ears and reaches our heart reacts positively, and we become more and more humble and soft within our heart and able to serve the Lord with more intensity. So very beautifully Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained. Uh, and if we look at our own spiritual life, and if we compare it, like what we have been doing, say 5 years back from now, or say 10 years back from now, and even if you're chanting, say 6 months from today, or say 2 years from today, uh, there might have been certain moments when your chanting was really very good, when you were able to concentrate uh, on the holy name, when you were able to hear the holy name, and you might have felt that 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 had an effect on our internal consciousness, and our interest towards the service, uh, towards the Vaishnavas, has started changing. I think most of the devotees who are chanting, they must have felt this experience, and this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining. Then he explains Vidya Vadhu Jivana. So what does it mean, Vidya Vadhu? So there are two words which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has used, Vidya and Vadhu. So Vidya means knowledge, and Vadhu, the literal meaning of Vadhu is his wife. So why these two words has been used? So knowledge, what kind of knowledge? Obviously, we will understand this is spiritual knowledge. So if you read Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita, there is explanation about the real knowledge, or transcendental knowledge. And when we talk about the transcendental knowledge, which is basically the explanation that what is the difference between matter and spirit, how spirit and matter they connect, and how a living entity is supposed to act in this material world. So this is the transcendental knowledge which is being given in Bhagavad Gita. But then Bhagavad Gita further explains that even this transcendental knowledge, there is a beyond that, there is a confidential knowledge, that the role of, what is the confidential knowledge? That the role of this jiva who is in this material world is only to serve the Bhagwan in this material world. And then further, there is a chapter number 9 in Bhagavad Gita, which is the most confidential knowledge, where Lord Krishna explains that this jiva who is supposed to serve the Bhagwan, that Bhagwan is no one but Krishna himself. So this most confidential knowledge. So this Vidya Vadhu Jivan, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining, this Vidya, this knowledge is this most confidential knowledge. So then when you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra sincerely, your attachment to no one other than Sri Krishna increases. So your knowledge about Sri Krishna and your relationship with Sri Krishna increases. And the second word what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is using is Vadhu. So which is the meaning of wife. So what is in what context? That Bhakti Devi, who is the considered to be a wife of Krishna, or Krishna who is the owner of Bhakti Devi. So Bhakti Devi get pleased, and we become more qualified to serve Krishna. So this is how he explains that Vidyavadu Jivanam. Then he says Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. So Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam means that the bliss, once you start chanting, gradually the bliss becomes a part of your life. And just like an ocean, it keep on increasing in your life. The more you chant, the more blissful you become. Then he says, Pratipadam, Pratipadam, Purnamrita Swadanam. So every single step you take in your spiritual life, and every time when you become more and more serious about your chanting, then it becomes more and more tasteful. So Prabhupada used to give this example always that when there is a patient and when you prescribe some medicine to them, initially uh, it it doesn't taste well. It doesn't go well with the patients. He gives the classic example of the jaundice that a person with jaundice have a bitter taste, and then you give sugar, then even sugar tastes bitter, and then but eating sugar is the only solution. So he keep on using it, and then ultimately he realized that okay, this is the sweet which is given to him. So similarly for us also, when we start chanting initially in early days, um, we find that we need to manage things. We need to, so like those who are chanting 16 rounds, they have to manage 2 hours every day, and gradually we realize that now this completing those 16 rounds at least with sincerity is something which we really want to do. So we ourselves face the shift in our own consciousness, that initially we don't have any clue. Like when we are chanting 1 round, 2 round, or 4 round, or 8 rounds, we feel, the devotee just feel that okay, somehow I need to reach to the stage of chanting 16 rounds. But when you consistently chant, you start feeling that how I chant even better. um, I think most of the devotees here, senior devotees here, who are very sincere and regularly chanting, they must agree with me as well that like this doing a good 16 rounds at least becomes one of uh, the key activity what we want to do every single day of our life and rest of our life. And from where this thought is coming, if you look deeply from our heart, it is coming because we are chanting. So because we are chanting sincerely, this thought is arising in our heart that okay, I want even better. And when such thing comes, when we want to do things better, when we are when we are facing something, we're experiencing something which is really very good, and this is how we progress. And the more we keep on chanting, more we become cleaner in our heart, and more intensely and more purely we can chant. And sessions like this help all of us. And um, lastly, he say Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. That it is self-explanatory. Yes, Param Vijayate, that is holy name. Uska Jai Ho. So this very beautifully Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this, and Sachidanand Maharaj has very beautifully, further detailed the glorification of the holy name. There are a lot of forums. There are a lot of discussions happens around it. We discuss it every single Sunday in this forum, um, and the entire spiritual journey what we are having is is based upon this particular shloka, this particular instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I also thought that I will share one literature with all of you. Those who don't have, I think I very strongly recommend that everyone who is interested to improve their japa and go to the deeper layers of japa should should have one book. I just a minute. Yeah. So can you see my screen? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is a book, The Nectarian Ocean of the Holy Name, by Sachidanand Swami. Okay, it's a very beautiful book. It's a very decently sized book, and I just recommend everyone to, whenever they find time, they must have this book if they really want to go in depth of the holy name. The only objective of this book is to understand how to chant better. Um, it it gives a very brief about the Nam Tattva. Then it gives the very detailed explanation about the Nam Kirtan. Then it explains the all the minor details of Nam Aparad. So every single 10 Aparad, and it explains that how it can impact our spiritual life. Then it explains that Nama Bhas, that chanting on the clearing stage, that how the Nama Bhas is achieved. Then it explains that Shuddha Nam, and then it gives a very detailed chapter on tips to improve one's chanting. So there's a whole big long chapter is there, and then there are long FAQ sections around the chanting. It's a wonderful book, and I recommend that all who don't have a copy of it can buy it. I'm not sure it's available on on Amazon or somewhere or not, but I have this copy and I can share. I will see that if I have a soft copy of this as well, but this is something which all should be trying to read and intensify our efforts to improve our chanting. So I think I'm on time. I'll just pause here, and if there are any question, I will try to address. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Madhukant Prabhuji, for highlighting the importance of this first verse of Sikshastakam, which, as you rightly said, is the basis of our whole spiritual life, the philosophy, which so nicely kind of highlight the 7 important things related to chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So I just want to open the floor for any questions for Prabhuji or any comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Prabhuji, one question I have is how do I differentiate the a normal emotion and emotion for Krishna? Like for everything, I feel that okay, I'm emotional about Krishna and I feel the presence or all those. But ultimately, I feel that it is just one of the emotions. Like even I see any of the stories or hear any stories, I get emotion. So this is a normal emotion, and which is bhakti. How do I differentiate? Like I get confusion, and when I get emotional about Krishna also, I don't take it seriously, because maybe it is one of the emotions, like ordinary emotions. So how do I differentiate? How do I mean, get to know whether it is a real emotion or just one of the material emotions, Prabhuji?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mother, for asking this question. So, so as I said, that the spiritual and the material, these two definition by itself means that anything plus Krishna is spiritual and anything minus Krishna is material. And the same applies to our emotions as well. So depending upon at what stage we are towards our attachment to the service and devotees and Krishna, as such is anything which is bringing Krishna in the picture, in the story. Yes, like for example, you are having some darshan, and then at the initial stage you feel emotional about it. I think in my view, in my understanding, in my realization, this is a good thing. If you look at Prabhupada's deity, and you feel emotional about it, you feel positive about it. This says that your heart is attached to the to Prabhupada and to the deities. What we are particularly discussing here is the pure material emotions, which is coming out of our own likes and dislikes. So, like for example, somebody does something which you don't like, or somebody is hurting your personal ego. So, for example, you want to execute a particular task, and somebody is coming in between and inhibiting you, and you get angry about it. This is a material emotion. This is what we are talking about. Uh, uh, the when we chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, these emotions get settled. We understand that we are not the center of this universe. Krishna is the center of universe, and anything which is in relation to Krishna is pure. So, like Prabhupada has given this example, that even the anger. So Hanumanji has used his anger to serve Lord Ram. Yes, so even anger can sometimes, in our scriptures, it is not that we should be imitating Hanumanji and using our anger, but the example has been given that pure devotees actually can use every single emotions what they have in the service of Krishna. But we should be very careful, and we should see that this particular emotion what we have, it is because of my own personal taste, or it is because of my attachment to Krishna. So in initial stages, when Krishna is directly into the scene, into the activity, or into the execution, though let it be any service in the temple or association with the devotees and all, they're all I kind of say a positive or good emotions, or emotions which are dragging us towards Krishna. And we should be very careful that where the emotions are arising out of our own sensual perceptions, or our own materialistic understanding, or our own interaction with our own ego. So that we need to look after. It takes some time to practice, but gradually, I think by the mercy of Vaishnava, we all will be there to understand it more clearly. I hope I could answer to an extent.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thanks, Madhukant Prabhuji, for answering. Just want to check if anyone has any other question, comment, or compliment.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I have one question. Prabhuji, how professionally in your work environment, how you are convincing other non-devotees to interact with holy names? Like how we can convince other in professional environment?
Yeah. So see, my input here is that the most difficult thing to convince is ourselves. If we are rightly convinced, then with our behavior, we will see that gradually rest of the people will either get convinced or they will become favorable to you. Whether it is our family or it is our office. In spiritual life is simple and based upon the purity. We can't influence anything with any artificial mean or by any force. But when people see that we as a devotee behave differently, and that behavior is appearing, resulting in the calmness, and at the same time in a good interaction with other people, professionally you will find that people change their perspective. So initially, because their experience in their own personal circle, in their own life is very negative. Everyone around us is always conscious that they should not be get cheated, they should not be get hurt. So they're always in the protected mode, and they by default understand that anything which is coming in front of us, they should be reacting it, and they should be criticizing it. But when they experience with your own behavior, with own your Vaishnava behavior, or that you are different and you are really on a positive part, that positivity can actually rightly influence them. So I think this works the most. And then those interested, if they proactively come to you and discuss that why you are like this, and that gives you a chance to discuss with them that how following spirituality is important. Um, if we just try to preach somebody by force, or change somebody's behavior by force, usually it is not. It's difficult. It's usually it fires back a lot of time.
Thanks, Prabhuji. Alok Prabhuji, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you very much, Prabhuji.
So any other question? Madhukant Prabhu, as I introduce him, is highly qualified both spiritually and professionally. So any related question can be asked.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you were mentioning in the book, at the end, there are some tips for improving chanting. So would you mind, helping us understand at least a few high-level tips?
Yeah, sure. So these tips, I know that a lot of these tips has been shared by many other devotees, but it's a very long chapter. There are topics like mm, how to better chant in the morning. So another point which is given, that 16 rounds what we chant, it is basically the at least 16 rounds. It is said it's not 16 rounds. It is at a minimum we should be chanting 16 rounds. Then chanting loudly enough to hear oneself. Chanting should be accompanied by regulative principles. There's another, the whole chapter is given on that. There's also importance is given that if you can chant in front of Tulsi, then there is a whole chapter that what should be our inner attitude towards chanting. Then there is a chapter on the technique of chanting, and then there is another chapter which is living with the holy name. So I think in the interest of time we won't be able to discuss in detail, but I suggest that if you can have this book and read it, it will be much more beneficial. It's a long actually list, so it's almost like close to 30 pages are there to explain different tips and tricks to improve the chanting.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So any last question? Jyoti Mataji, yeah, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My question is here, like if we want to change our habit, one of our habit, like to with control our mind. So I heard that you continue chant, practice, and it will change gradually. But I'm doing that. So how I can improve more? If you light on this.
So Madhaji, if I understood your question correctly, you're asking that you want to change your habit and you are finding it difficult. So how by
Yes.
chanting you
Yes.
can do better?
Yeah, I heard that if we're doing continuously chanting and it will improve. So if you highlight on this, how I can do more.
So there are two aspects of it, Mataji, which we should be very clearly understand. One is that the ultimate aim of chanting is to please Krishna. Why we want to chant? This question we all should be asking very, very seriously and sincerely. So chanting will make us a better person. But what that better person will do, if that better person will ultimately serve himself, then that chanting will end up not in a very good place. Yes, because ultimately we just chanted, we become slightly better, and then we started serving our own ego. So the habit what you are trying to improve, we need to understand what is the ultimate goal of that habit. After becoming that better person, your goal is to that with becoming by developing that particular skill, by this the habit, will you be able to serve Krishna better? So say, for example, somebody is not able to focus or concentrate, say, more than 2 minutes. I'm just taking an example. Yes. And he thinks, okay, if I chant, I will be able to focus more, or I will be able to meditate more, say 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day. And ultimately I will reach that I will be able to meditate for 1 hour a day. But ultimately what I want, why I want to focus, so the objective, so there can be two objectives. One is that by improving myself, by focusing more on myself, ultimately I will be able to serve my senses better. This is one way. So then again, your mind and your consciousness is taking you to the wrong path. Another way is that, okay, I will chant so that I can chant even more. I can serve the devotees. I can go to temple. I can meet the devotees, and ultimately I can develop myself better as a devotee, and my attachment to the Krishna will increase. So we should be very clear that we should be adopting this path while we chant. The second section of this particular discussion is that, and I think Sri Gaur Prabhu is the gold standard which I have seen, in my last 20 years, that the regularity of anything which you do in your material life brings a wonderful result, and that is not and spiritual life is not an exception to this. So if you chant sincerely to improve yourself on a particular to improve your consciousness, and if you do it regularly, it will make you a better person. But I would again repeat that don't use chanting as a tool to make you a better person to serve a material context of life, because then something else will come up, and then you will improve one thing, and then some other thing will come up, then third thing will come up, and this whole anxious cycle will never end. So our objective should be that ultimately we serve, ultimately we become better as a devotee, and if that path is there, then everything will fall in place. So we need to understand it more wider.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's clear.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madhukant Prabhuji. Thanks a lot for your time today. Really relishable session. And thanks all of you for attending these sessions.
Thanks, Hare Krishna.
His Grace Madhukant Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.